Okay, it's 2:45 a.m. May the 25th, 2011. This is Toronto. I'm SUPERMUSHMOUSE, and this is going to be a video of the moon hologram. Okay, notice how many orbs are suspended above the half moon image. Okay, they are not part of the image, they are suspended above it. And there's a big one towards the bottom center. Now these are large orbs. I'll show you just how large. You can see that that's a gigantic orb. Okay, now I want to bring your attention to those two pointy peaks that are sticking out. Okay, for those of you that live in Toronto, I want to bring your attention to that. That's very much like the CN Tower. And if I can get it in the picture, you can see the orbs revolving around it. You can see the orbs revolving around it, and that's exactly what they do around the CN Tower. I'm beginning to believe that that's why the CN Tower structure was created, for that reason, and that all the tall structures being created in the world that are miles high are being created for the same reason. For these orbs to be able to revolve around those structures and build up enough momentum in order to create energy, which they use to charge themselves up with. So just look at that. And go a little bit lower. Okay, so just take a look at that. Now that's miles high, being that it's so far away and it's still visible. That's miles high. And you can see the other orbs below that are just suspended all the way down, right to the bottom. Okay, now those are what I call clusters, and they're clusters of orbs, and they're actually, in my opinion, living ships. And you can see that they're not attached to anything, because there's really nothing there to attach. This whole moon hologram that you're looking at is not a solid object, not in terms of being made out of rocks. Okay, this object is strictly made out of these entities, and you can see right there that it's the entities and the density of the entities that make up the moon hologram. The reason why it's been so bright lately is because people like myself have cameras that can go up close enough to film it, and they don't want anyone to know that it's not a solid object, the same solid object that we thought was our moon. Okay, so this object has density, has volume, has mass, has everything else like any solid object would have. but it is not made out of rocks. It's made up of all of these orbs and orb clusters, and you can just see how many there are. There are just zillions upon zillions of these. The numbers are staggering. Okay, you can just see how many there are. And you can see that they have these cone-like structures that are very tall, miles high. And they use these structures in order to revolve around them at super fast velocity and build up energy which charges them up. They are high vibrations, fast velocity organisms or entities. And they require a really high motion, high velocity motion to exist. They even have to vibrate just in place in order to sustain that existence. They cannot stand still. So you can see here how they're shooting off of that thing. Okay, both of those things. What they're doing is building up the velocity, and they're just shooting off into space. But this is not just into space, this is right into our atmosphere, since now that whole image is inside the Earth's atmosphere. And there's a good look at that. I just want to position the camera. Now you can clearly see they're going around that structure that looks like a cone, getting narrower at the top. Okay, there's the structure, and they're going around it very fast. Now it's hard to keep the camera in one spot when they're moving the entire hologram, pretending that it's the moon. So at this close range, it's hard to keep the camera right on one particular small thing like that, since it's small in relationship to the overall structure. But you can clearly see that the orbs are shooting right off of that thing. So what they do is they start at the white part at the bottom and start rotating fast, and then they get faster as the thing narrows to the top. Finally, they're revolving around a very small radius, and then they have enough speed to do what you're looking at here, to shoot off into space. Okay, and you're seeing it done right there. Okay, now that space I'm talking about at this moment is really not outer space, but it's just our own atmosphere, because the entire thing there is in our atmosphere. Look at that black cluster right there, the large one, and then the large orb right there. Now they're both clusters, but they're not the same kind of a cluster. Just want to try and get that in position. Okay, you have three different types of clusters right there. If I can get this to stay. Sorry about the movement of the camera. It's very hard to get one position. Okay, there's three different types of clusters right there. If you could see them. There's an black orb cluster on top, a gray looking one in the middle, and then a black one on the bottom. The one on top is the largest, then followed by the second largest in the middle, and then the least in size, the smaller one, the black orb on the bottom. Now, they're all composed of the same entities, but are different types of clusters. since these entities can create various types of clusters. Now you see more clusters there that are yet different than the ones I just showed you. So there is no real limit to the types of clusters these entities can make. They can make all kinds of clusters that, and you can see them right there. There are the three that I was showing before. I'll just let them come up. I'm having trouble with the stand because it's not that precise and it's hard to pinpoint one little spot on the entire moon hologram image, but I'll do my best. Don't forget the whole thing is moving. Okay, there's more clusters. Okay, these are different than the ones before. Now look at the size of these. So what all those clusters are that are huge, they're actually living ships. They're totally created and constructed with entities that bond together and join up and create a living ship. So it's just like a living mass going through either Earth's atmosphere, or when they travel in space, they do it in space. In space they can be much larger than they are in Earth's atmosphere. And you can see the energy field around the hologram in red. Okay, that's the energy field that keeps the entire mass, which looks like the moon image, in place. Okay, there's an energy field on top and all around. You can see the red portion. It's harder to see where the orbs are, or orb clusters are, but still it's visible. You can see the red glow right all around it. Okay, so that moon hologram image is teeming with life. There are more of them in that image than there are people on Earth. There are more of them in that image, orbs I'm talking about, than there are people and all the living things on Earth combined. There are more of them in numbers than everything that's on Earth, if we don't count them, because now they're on Earth. These things can be microparticle size, even smaller than atoms, smaller than subatomic particles, smaller than quarks and things like that. There is no limit to how small they can be, and there is no limit to how large they can be. The size is just a matter of how many of them bond together, and that either creates a large cluster, and if they disjoin into smaller units, then you can have infinitely small sizes of organisms. All of these organisms exist only in clusters. I have never seen one single organism that was not in a cluster. And I've been filming these entities for at least 2 years, and quite a bit too. And I have never yet seen one that is a single individual organism. I want to try and show you these structures. You can see that's the top one, that's like a cone. If I can get it in the picture. And you can see that it's composed of orbs, larger orbs, and then smaller orbs go around around the structure and rotate counterclockwise at extreme velocities to pick up enough speed so that they can energize. Those larger orbs are clusters, and the smaller orbs that revolve around them are also clusters. Like I said, I have yet to see an individual entity of these species. I have never seen one by itself. And you can clearly see that all of these orbs that are floating around are not attached to anything. They are only attached to themselves. And that's just the way that cone structure is attached cluster to cluster. The entire moon image, the hologram itself, is like that. They are attached to each other, and they are basically a hexahedron pattern, or a hexahedron shape. That's their elemental pattern. But when they join together, the bonds they use are electromagnetic tetrahedron bonds, because that's what locks up a hexahedron shape into place better than anything else. These organisms are very efficient, and they're very intelligent. They are not things. They are not insects. They are not animals. They are not even people. They are very intelligent, high energy beings. They are a being that can transform from a pure energy state, which is light, into a plasma state, or into a material state in a third dimension. These things are not limited to any dimension, because they have found a way to harness the energy of the stars. So, being that they can control so much energy, they are able to be interdimensional entities and an interdimensional species. They are not limited to either the third dimension or any other dimension. They can go into many dimensions, many which we have not yet even found or heard about, or will not find in a million years, because this species is very old and is spread throughout the universe. Not just this universe, but the multiverse. I want you to look at those two peaks very closely, because that's what the CN Tower is. That's what all those new tall structures are that are sort of, quote, marvels of the world. Nothing else than these type of cone structures for those entities to energize so that they can control our planet, because without energy they are unable to function. Now, the way they get energy is through motion. That's one way, and they have to revolve around a structure at super fast velocity and super high vibrational frequency, and that creates lots of electromagnetic energy, which they can convert into whatever form of energy they need. The basic form of energy that they need is always going to be reduced down to electromagnetic force and electromagnetic energy. That's the basic energy that they require. Now, that energy is cosmic energy. It can be found anywhere and everywhere throughout this universe and any other universe, which we don't know about at this moment, but there are many of them, and the electromagnetic energy permeates all of them. For that reason, since energy such as electromagnetic energy is so abundant in the multiverse, these organisms, these entities, and this species is able to exist all over in every one of those universes, and to be powerful and to grow even more intelligent and be able to control other, according to them, lesser species, which we are part of those lesser species. They've been around for such a long time that they have evolved and advanced, not only technologically, but their natural forms have advanced to the point where they can become pure energy, which is light. So they can transform themselves from matter into light in less than a blink of a second, in 1/1,000,000th of a second. They can also transform themselves from the three-dimensional matter into plasma in less than a blink of an eye. So they can go back and forth from the pure energy state of light to plasma to the three-dimensional material state at will and in no time at all. Now I get a lot of people telling me all kinds of things that they think they know and how much they've studied this subject and all that, and it doesn't really mean anything to me because they really haven't learned anything. They can study it for the next 10,000 years and they still won't know anything because they don't understand what they're looking at. If you really want to know about these entities, you will listen to the things I'm saying about them, because this is what's going on and this is what is true about them. Everything else is either lies, misunderstanding, or just hype to make money. And I'm not into any one of those things. I'm truly looking to discover and understand these entities for myself. And I am just sharing it with anyone who is willing and able to listen and understand. And you can clearly see that those are in a hover position. And what you don't realize is that the entire moon hologram structure is composed of those orbs, which are all in a hover position. They are just interlocked together by tetrahedron electromagnetic energy bonds. And that's what gives the moon hologram its shape. And I'll just back off. As you can see, the red halo around the structure, the entire hologram, I'll just back off. You can see that it's around the entire hologram, and if I close in over here, you can see the tint of red there too. That's what holds the entire moon hologram into shape, and it gives us the impression that we're looking at our moon. Now in 2009, I filmed the moon explode over a course of a month or so, maybe longer. I only managed to film about 10 days out of the month or so that the explosions were going on, but I filmed, it seems, on the right days when there was explosions going on one after the other for a long time. So I have it on video that the moon was suffering huge, massive, tremendous explosions, one after the other, on, and it would go on for a period, then it would stop for a little bit, then carry on again, until I finally, on December the 3rd, 2009, saw the first moon hologram, which is what you're looking at right now. And December 3, 2009 was the first time that there was a moon hologram on film, and I believe I captured it the first time with clouds coming behind it. That's when I realized that the whole image was a hologram, and that in fact it was in our atmosphere, since there were clouds behind it. Now, I want you to keep looking at this so that you can understand how they energize. Back it up a little bit. You can clearly see even large clusters revolving at such high velocity that you can't see them. These entities can go faster than the speed of light. I have actual information to back that up, and I have files that'll back that up. They use black holes and supermassive black holes to attain speeds faster than the speed of light. Being that they are pure energy creatures as it is, going at the speed of light is natural for them. So obviously when they travel long distances or interdimensionally, they need to obtain speeds higher than what their normal speed is. So they can go faster than the speed of light, and they use the massive gravitational forces inside of black holes as a propulsion system, and also as a wormhole or a tear into another dimension and space-time. This one definitely reminds me of the CN Tower, and also that other tall building in Malaysia, someplace where they built it that it's a mile high. Okay, now there's the three different clusters right there. Notice that the hologram is moving. I'm not moving the camera. That's the hologram moving backwards. I'm not moving the camera at all. I'm not even touching the camera. Watch it go backwards. What it's trying to do is escape from the camera view. Watch, see how fast it went forward? I have not touched the camera. You saw it going backwards, and then watch, it may go back again. So that kind of movement is what tells me 100% for sure that that is not the moon. Look, it went back by itself. I have not touched the camera. And this camera does not have an automatic motor where it follows the moon or anything like that. This is a normal camera. You can see how many of those orbs are in the atmosphere on all sides of the hologram. Our atmosphere is totally filled and saturated with these organisms and entities. And you can just see how many are flying around. And the smaller ones that are microscopic and subatomic in size, we're breeding them in. We drink them with water. We eat them with our food. They are inside of us no matter how we want to look at it. There's just no escape from them. And look how many there are. This is in the air. Okay? And these are all clusters, and they're pretty large. Now, think of how many microscopic clusters there must be. if there are so many large ones. And you can see clearly the counterclockwise rotations and revolutions around the nuclei of the clusters. When those clusters reach a certain velocity, they spark up and glow. And this is how you see glowing orbs. So glowing orbs are just large enough clusters that can that have enough velocity and momentum to create an energy field which is plasma, and that glows. Plasma is superheated gas, being that it's in our atmosphere they're doing this, and this is why the superheated gas it glows, because it is plasma. So I just want to show the whole thing. And it's good to notice where those cone structures are with reference to the size of the entire image. They are on the top portion of the image. Now look at that. That image is moving by itself. I am not touching the camera right now. Now look how it's moving back and forth. It's doing that because it is a spaceship. That entire image is a living spaceship, which happens to be in our atmosphere at the moment, and is pretending to be our moon. But our moon is gone, and it won't be coming back. And all we have is this hologram of it, which in reality is a huge cluster of alien beings, which are interdimensional and did not come from our dimension into the third dimension. They came from another dimension. They did not come from an outside solar system or an outside galaxy or anywhere within the three-dimensional universe. They came from a different universe and from a different dimension. None of the dimensions that we know. Look how many are in the air. Now that's our air on our planet. And just look how many of them there are. So you can consider this a planetary interdimensional invasion. It's the only way to properly see what's going on. Since now without the moon, they control all the energy and all the natural forces on the earth, such as tides, tectonic movement, ocean currents, air currents, any other natural phenomena which we depend on to live. All things depend on to live on this planet. They are now in control of all of them. And if you don't believe that, then, you know, there's no way to explain it to you. You have to come to terms with the fact that we are no longer in control of this planet we're on. That another intelligent force of beings has come and practically taken all our power away by destroying the moon, which was our security blanket in terms of how we hold our orbit around the sun, in terms of our magnetic field, in terms of our natural forces on Earth, such as tides and air and wind currents, in terms of a lot of things. Without the moon, it changes the entire picture, and it totally takes all our power away, since we are not able to control energy like they do. Right there at the bottom, you can clearly see that those are raised and not touching anything. Those orb clusters. And so is that large one, and the ones next to it, on top of it, and the rest of them, and the rest of them, and all of them. And this is their version of the CN Tower, or the Malaysian building, the tallest structure in the world. Well, right now, that's the tallest structure in the world. You're looking at it, because that's on our planet, being that it's in our atmosphere. So that makes this the tallest structure in the world, because it's miles and miles high. If you consider that the moon hologram is approximately maybe the size of our moon, what our moon used to be, then this thing would be about 100 miles, maybe more tall. Maybe a couple of 100 miles tall. Being that the moon was 1/6 of the Earth mass, that would make this thing at least 100 miles tall, giving the comparison to the overall size of the image. And even if you move back or zoom out, you can still see that those two tall structures are sticking out. And just look how it's moving backwards and forwards, and it's not in a constant orbit and motion the way the moon used to be. That's because it's not the moon. It's a ship, but it's a living ship. And they cannot ever keep up the same orbit as the moon used to have, because they're not the moon. They may not be the same exact mass. They may not be the same exact size. They may not have the same gravitational attraction as the moon used to have. So there's a lot of factors that make that jerk around like that in the sky. And this is why the moon has been looking strange, smaller, larger, not coming on time. People are perplexed what's going on. Well, this is the reason, because this is not your moon. The moon is gone, and this is just a ship, but it's a living ship composed of entity clusters which are interdimensional beings. Now just look at those things. Right there on top, you can see that you can almost see through that image, because it is not as thick in places as in other places. The density is different. It all depends where the clusters pile up together, and they change their location all along the moon hologram image in order to give us the different phases of the moon, so that we don't think there's anything odd about it. So they change where they are inside the moon hologram back and forth in order to give the right representation, the right picture, and reflect that down to us. the way they reflect that down to us is because they can glow, since they can create energy. And the glow makes this entire structure and image shine, and we see it from down on the ground as the moon image, where in reality it's really an interstellar, an interdimensional and multiversal vehicle, a ship. And all of those smaller orbs, they're ships too, because they can travel through space and go interdimensional. Every single orb cluster, regardless of its size, if it's microscopic, can do all the same things that that entire moon hologram structure can do. He just does it at a lesser rate, or at a less power, or less effect, but it does the same things. All of these clusters are joined together not only by electromagnetic energy bonds, they are joined together to communication. They have a binary method of communication, and it's really efficient. It is super efficient, and every single part or every single cluster knows what they need to know and is aware of what's going on in terms of the overall picture that concerns everybody. Everybody, I mean all of them. And obviously we are not them, so we are not privy to any of that sort of information. There are people who think that these are our friends, and they've been given some information, but this is all a form of deceit, since these things are not interested really in us and are not interested in anything to do with us, and the information they divulge and disclose is really meaningless to them, because they have so much information. We can't even comprehend the information that they have. So the information they're giving us could be just their trash and useless information that they have no further use for. Even the technology that they have given us in secret, to them is useless information, because now they are so far beyond that sort of thing that they really have no use for it. And you can see that those are large clusters joined together to form a tall structure, and they go from large on the bottom to more narrow and smaller on top. And they form a cone, and the reason for that is that when they start their revolution around the bottom, it is slower, and then it increases in speed as the top of the structure gets narrower. So they are circling around a smaller radius, and the smaller radius means higher velocity. This is how they create electromagnetic energy. Now, talk about energy, they can make energy from anything. They can make energy from three-dimensional matter. They can make energy from stars, solar energy. They can make energy from gravitational forces, such as the Earth's gravitational field, or the sun's gravitational field, or any planet or star gravitational field, including any moon gravitational field. So they use all these forces just like we do, except they are much more efficient and much more advanced. And they are ahead of us by many millions of years, if not billions. I'm not sure how far ahead of us they are, but certainly millions of years. There's a good shot of the cluster. Get that into focus better, and into the center. Okay, just look at that cluster. You can see the operation of a cluster. There's more than one cluster there, but altogether they form a large cluster. And this is the way they join. They form small clusters and then larger ones. But no matter how you look at it, it's a joining of clusters one way or another that make a big cluster. Now I had a guy just write me and say, I don't know what I'm talking about, and these are demons and spirits and this and that, and I want to tell him personally that he's dead wrong. These are interdimensional beings, and they use science and technology just like we do, except on a much higher level. They have nothing to do with either demons or spirits. Demons and spirits are a product of an ignorant mind. That's when you don't understand what it is. You call it a demon, a spirit, or an angel. When you understand what it is, then you call it what it is. And those are interdimensional living entities. They have nothing to do with angels, with spirits, demons, or anything else. They are just different life forms. Now, I believe in God myself, and these are nothing to do with God. They have not been sent by God. Satan didn't send them. I don't know who sent them, but they must have sent themselves, since they are not and don't have anything to do with either angels or demons or God. They are not God, and they were not sent by God, and they have not. They have nothing to do with Satan. People construe them as satanic because obviously they mean to destroy us and mean us harm. So obviously we think of them as evil, but that doesn't make them demons or spirits. It makes them evil entities and evil beings, because they are not concerned with our well-being. They are thinking about themselves, not about us. So the whole thing has nothing to do with the issue of religion, basically. It's just a matter of two different species, us and them, interacting, and we're being forced to interact because we never invited them to come here in the first place. They invited themselves. And I don't know why they came. They may have been here for thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of years on this planet. I don't know. But it's not really relevant how long they've been here. What is relevant is that they are here and we are forced to deal with them. whether we like to or not. And obviously, being more advanced than we are, they want to control the planet. And if we buck them, they will destroy us. And they've started doing that. And in the past, they have done that. All those previous destructions of the world that we always hear about and nobody can remember because they were so awful and so complete that we can't even remember our past history, it was them. That's who was responsible, and they're starting to do the same thing all over again. And we are in those times where that's going to happen. And the best thing is to try and be as prepared as you can be and try and survive. I don't know what else or what other advice I can give to anyone. You have to prepare for the worst things you've ever conceived of and try and survive them, because that's all you can do. And anyone who's telling you nothing's happening, don't worry, this and that, they don't know what they're talking about. You better take this seriously and consider preparing yourself. There are other people who want to keep this a secret. They don't want panic, but you know, it doesn't matter whether we panic now or later, there'll be panic anyway. So the thing is, don't panic. Prepare yourself so that you don't panic, because in a panic you really can't do anything. Nothing constructive. And you can see that the orbs are now leaving the main mass of the moon hologram. It must be getting close to dawn. Let's check what time it is. Okay, it's 3:45. Okay, so what they're starting to do is disperse, because near dawn some of them disperse off of the moon hologram and image and come down to the ground. They come on trees, in the water, on the ground, on buildings, on everything, people, animals, insects, and everything on this planet. They are on everything. And the ones that were down here for the night go up into the sky in the daytime. So they alternate shifts like that. Some are up in the sky, in the moon hologram, and in the air itself, in the atmosphere, while others are down on the ground, in water, and on everything else. And that's their cycle. They have a 12-hour cycle, which is dusk and dawn. And that's their cycle. It's going to be harder and harder to see what's in the frame, because there's going to be more and more of those entities in the air itself. As you can see, the hologram is reducing right there. You can see at that point, it's slowly dissipating. And if you watch it long enough, you can actually see it dissipate altogether. And I've done that before. I've actually put on a video where the entire moon hologram structure just dissolved, because I spent enough time one night or early morning filming it until it finally dissolved. But you can see how that's done. being that there are so many entities and the hologram is so dense with the entities, it takes a long time for them to dissipate enough of them to change the entire image. But you can see in the air a lot more of them now than before, and they're harder to see now than before because it just looks like snow. But those are all large clusters. They're hundreds of feet, or meters I should say, in diameter. They are not small. It's just that they are far away and they only look small on the image because this is a camera and I'm shooting from a long distance off. This is high up in the Earth's atmosphere. And you can see the reddish tint, the energy field. Watch it change. Before it was pointing right across or up at the corner there, and watch now it's changing its shape down towards the bottom. It's pointing more downward. And that's how they changed the hologram image. They changed the way the field, the energy field is. They changed the shape of the field, and that's how they contain all that huge mass of orbs that's very dense. And that's a very dense mass of orbs. That's how they contain its shape and change the image of the hologram. Now, if you watch that long enough, you would see the whole thing change. Unfortunately, I only have so much life in the battery, and I will not be able to show that. Maybe some other time. Now, I have not gone to full zoom because getting too close, you really don't see much. It's better to stay back a little so that you can see the larger picture. I just want to see what's up here. You can see that that whole thing is just teeming with life and all kinds of activity at a very fast pace. The pace is so fast that we don't see it, and this is why we can't see them in the air. Our perception, our senses, our eyesight, and all our other senses, we can't hear them, we can't see them. They're just moving too fast for our perception. But that does not mean that they are not here and all around us. We just can't see them or hear them or even feel them, because what they are is really a different state of matter than we are. Therefore, we can't detect them. But that still doesn't mean that they're not here. Okay, I'm getting the signal that my battery is going. In about a minute or two it's gonna go. I'm just gonna let it run out, and I'm gonna put this entire video on just the way it is. If I made any mistakes, I don't rehearse what I'm going to say, and I don't know what I'm going to film, so I apologize. If I said the wrong word here and there, that's only because I didn't know what I was going to film, and I'm trying to describe things as I see them. And this here is the tallest structure on Earth, taller than anything else we've built, and this is inside of our atmosphere. This is their CN tower, their version of CN tower. And you can see the orb clusters just shooting right off as they increase their velocity, and you can see them clearly spinning around all the way from the bottom all the way up. And as they go up to the top, they shoot off, because that's where they reach their maximum velocity possible with that size of a tower. Now, who knows, other places they may have much taller towers and attain much higher velocity, but being that Earth is not a large planet, this is the size they've chosen for here. So that's the tallest structure in the world. And there's another one that's less tall than that one, but it does the same thing, serves the same purpose, and there's the two of them together. And you can see them even from far away. And you can see that they're tall structures. So, at the end of this video, I want to thank you very much for watching. I know it's a long one. I appreciate your time, and I hope I have made it clear what these things are and what they can do and how they're doing it, because soon you're going to have a real need to know what they are and what they do and how they're going to affect your life and the lives of those people you love. So I expect the battery to run out at any moment, and you can see that the hologram is clearly dissolving. Unfortunately, my battery is going to run out faster than the hologram, but you can see now that all the solid looking structures are dissolving everywhere, both sides, and you're going to just watch that whole thing dissolve. I'm going to move this over, see if I can catch it before the battery runs out. Okay, the whole thing is going to just slowly dissolve. It won't happen all at once, but it will slowly dissolve. So I'll just go from the top down so that you can see all the orb clusters that are hovering. In fact, the entire hologram is hovering. I'll try and zoom in one more time to show them. I'm not touching the camera. Now that whole thing moved by